Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Once again, under a bit of a time constraint because I got raided in about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 or something like that. So I'm probably just going to run through these questions like we have been the last couple of weeks. It's been kind of refreshing getting these done in the time that we have. And I think we have like 9 or 10 questions or so I think I saw in the comment section, so that shouldn't be too bad. I do want to give a little bit of an update before we get started, though. Things are going much better for me on my end. Some of you may remember I have put out a video as of late talking about how my mind has just been kind of wandering and in need of respite, which is not entirely untrue at the moment, but it's definitely gotten a lot better. I felt that itch to make some videos, even just some discussion-based videos, over the past several days. So I did one where my voice became a robot at the end, and just in case that happens again, because I don't know why it happened, I'm going to be probably breaking my recordings up a little bit more now so I can go back and fix those things a little bit more easily. So with that, just wanted to give you guys an update on how I'm doing on my mental health and how things are progressing on my side of things. So I feel like I owe you guys at least that much. With that, let's thank our patrons and get into the Q&A. Thank you to our patrons over on Patreon who have been supporting the channel through thick and thin these last several months, years, however long you may have been there. And thank you, of course, to our patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Janova, and Kurenai Oni. All of you have been fantastic. Those two have gone above and beyond in particular, but all of you have been awesome. And even if you're not a patron, thank you for tuning in, asking a question, liking the video, or whatever it is you're actually doing. As a reminder here at the start of the video, you can ask questions in the comment section of the video below, and they will be featured on the following week, if not directly on the screen, then through some sort of lightning round towards the end. But with that, let's get started so I can go get lunch before raid. All right, question number 1, hashtag Mr. Mondays. How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. No, really, how you doing? I hope you're well. Good thing I answered that. I answered that as question number 0 as the intro of the video. Drop some whiskey recommendations. So actually, here's the thing. I'm taking whiskey recommendations because I'm new to the whole collecting something thing. So collecting different types of whiskeys is it's been mostly an education process for me of trying to figure things out and learning about the different kinds. So Suntory Hibiki was a really nice surprise. The only other ones I think I have a Macallan 12 and a Glenfiddich 12 and a Glenlivet 12, and I know this isn't whiskey. I have a bottle of Kraken in there. It's like a spiced rum that I drank back in college, but I know that's still lingering around. Johnny Walker Blue, but that's only for special occasions. But I've been getting all sorts of recommendations, and I'm having a hard time committing them to memory. So I have them written down somewhere, but I'm the one who's actually looking for whiskey recommendations because for my 30, I'm turning 30 next month, so might as well treat myself to something nice, something like an $80 bottle of whiskey, probably like a 15, 17, 18-year-old bottle, something along those lines. Could probably get for around that price range. So I don't have any recommendations for you, but I will gladly take recommendations in the comment section of the video below if you have a favorite that I didn't name right there. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Mrhappy. Hello. I hope you're keeping well and safe, and I hope the same for you. I have 2 questions this week if you're interested to hear both. Well, I don't know if I'm interested yet. Let's find out. 1, was there any chance an interview or article with Yoshi P or the devs where they explain how they handle job balancing or adding new actions onto current jobs? I've been curious about it since 14 might be at the point where we'll see fewer new jobs. It's making me wonder if they'll change how they adjust current jobs. They talk about it fairly frequently. Anytime there is a new job or job changes for an expansion, the topic always comes up. So while I couldn't point you in one in particular, it is a topic that has been discussed historically with Final Fantasy XIV. And they're very, very committed to the idea of as balanced a game as they can possibly produce. So it's why the community tends to really, go kind of nuts over even the smallest of things, because the jobs are overall pretty well balanced and well designed. So it's the little things that get on people's nerves or the little imbalances that people really have to focus on, because that's really all that they can be. And sometimes they get it more right than wrong, sometimes more wrong than right. But they generally just try to keep us in a very a very narrow margin of difference between the jobs. And that's led to some people being worried about homogenization or jobs being too similar to one another or playing too similar to one another. But so far, I feel like every job, even if they generally access their power in similar ways, has a very unique feel to them, even amongst the more static jobs like tanks and healers, and less so for the DPS. I'm sure we'll hear about it again. The very topic about how many jobs there are in the game right now, I'm sure is bound to be coming up, if not this expansion, but in the next one. And I'm curious to see how they'll continue to do it going forward. I do think we will see fewer jobs. I agree with that. I think at some point that has to be the route that they take. just because of the sheer number of them, and that becomes more work for the balancing teams, for the teams that make the armor. At some point, I can't help but feel like we'll go from 2 jobs in expansion to 1 job in expansion, and that they'll put those resources towards other things or towards just making the armor and the balances for what's currently there. I don't think we'll ever hit a point where we get 0 jobs until the game is like way past its prime. But for now, yeah, definitely thinking that 6.0 may be the last time we see 2 full jobs in an expansion. Question number 2. I've been quite busy recently with uni work and other things, but I was thinking about trying out the hunt. Yeah. Hunt trains were a thing when players would report a hunt, then mark it off on Areala. So people don't do it like that anymore. The way people primarily do the hunt now, at least for the most recent set of them, specifically hunts that are present in the Shadowbringer zones, is that they will go on, there's Discord groups that will compile all the locations and then run a train nonstop through all those locations instead of marking it as killed on Areala and people going to another zone and finding it and killing it there. They'll compile all that information and then somebody will conduct the train in all the hunt locations. It's far more organized than it used to be. So I would recommend for players looking to try it, find out what Discord group applies to your data center. Ether Hunts, for example, is the one that I use on Ether. Centurio Hunts does have ones for Primal, Crystal, and Ether on NA, but it's primarily used by Primal players. There is a separate Crystal Hunts Discord for anyone on there. And then there's Discords for other data centers as well. So my recommendation is to find out which Discord applies to your data center, join it, and then get used to the way that it operates. Because once you get used to it, it is a well-oiled machine that will get you tons and tons of nuts. Right under that one, in this very small text, because there's not a whole lot to it, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays, hello from New Jersey, Haps. I'm so sorry you're still stuck there. Hope you're well. I do hope you are well, but you're in New Jersey, so it's you're like half well. Lightning round question. Well, it's going in the main round. What is your go-to team in Genshin? You know, I don't really believe in a go-to team. I just kind of don't care what I do, because in the overworld, you can do whatever the hell you want. And that's great, because it means if you want to just try something new for the sake of trying something new, you can. If you're exploring new areas, you might want to have, you know, a fire character and a water character and an earth character, like in case you see, and a lightning character in case you see, you know, like a shrine that you need to get. But once you have all that generally done, you know, it comes down to who you want to use, who you're going to be doing, you know, weekly bosses with, or who you're going to be doing the overworld bosses with. And for that, I really don't care. Like, I just have Klee, Razor, Chi-Chi, and Knoll. And, like, it's whatever. I do that with everything except for Spiral Abyss. And then Spiral Abyss, you need very targeted teams. So I can't really say I have a go-to team for that either. It's just a matter of who my, you know, top DPS are and what the bonuses are and things like that. So I use that team, the Klee, Razor, Chi-Chi, Knoll team, but for no particular reason. I'm looking forward to Ayaka eventually, because I want to do like Ayaka, Shinsho, and then maybe Knoll. Just, I don't think I'll need the shield, but then I want a couple of supporting characters behind them. I think that would be pretty interesting. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Have you ever thought... Hi, by the way. Have you ever thought about making a stream clip channel on YouTube? DMC Madness on Twitch is really wrecking some streamers from what I hear. Well, it's not wrecking me, because I've generally tried to keep stuff that's DMCA free off the channel. Honestly, my biggest fear was Kingdom Hearts, and I actually went back and deleted all that stuff off my channel. I had Tony Hawk, but I actually stopped that from making clips, and it was muted, but I decided to delete that as well, because Tony Hawk is madness indeed. I just like taking like good stream clip moments and putting them on YouTube. Like, for example, when Mel fed me the hot sauce, for example, I felt like that would make a funny video. So I took it off YouTube and I edited it and I added some funky music to it. And for me, that's more fun than just, here are my clips for the day and they're going on YouTube. And the thing is, the idea of making a second YouTube channel just for that is not super attractive to me, which is why I'd rather take the more meaningful moments that are clipped and put them on and actually edit them and make something more fun out of them, as opposed to just doing a channel that just is my clips. You know what I mean? I deleted every clip off Twitch, but I did also download them. I considered doing a video where I just click through clips, and whenever I get a good one, maybe I'll like edit it into the video, be like, oh, you know, I remember this one and what was going through my head, and just to kind of look back at some of the old funny moments. But there's 14,000 clips. I feel like I'd have to look through the clips first and then find ones that are generally likable and then put them together like beforehand, instead of, you know, like randomly clicking through 14,000 clips and hoping I land on something funny. Or I'd have to remember clips and what their names were and then include them in that. So there's some ideas are going through my head about taking clips like that. Obviously, I've done like the shiny Pokemon and Temtem clip compilations and stuff like that, but it's still only an idea at this point. All right, hashtag, oh my God, that's a lot of text. That's not what the hashtag says. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hello. I hope you're doing as well as I am. I'm glad to hear you are doing well, and I don't know if I can equal that, but I can certainly say I'm having a good time. First time here to ask a question, but before I get into that, I want to explain why I ask questions. Okay. I started 14 in April. I had not played an MMO since Burning Crusade. I always thought it impossible due to the time needed for an MMO, so I'm pleasantly surprised by Final Fantasy since it really allows me to stay away for days and return, and you haven't missed a thing. I just made a video about this a few days ago. So in that regard, this game is perfect for casual gamers or people with jobs with little time on their hands. It also gives you a nice way of getting into the game, follow the main scenario, get to level 80, very straightforward. You do some roulettes, revisit some of the very well done dungeons and trials. Several months later, you're done, level 80, released into the world. The game asks you politely if you would like to have a nice, refreshing drink of content. It offers you a fire hose to fill your glass. I like it. There's so many beginner guides out there to get into Final Fantasy, but who offers a bit of guidance for these fresh new level 80s? The amount of content for new players is absolutely overwhelming. And with that, again, the questions. All very reasonable, observations. I think that a lot of people like me, or people in my circles at the very least, don't really consider how a function of a game or how an update to a game really, I guess, affects new players. Because sometimes they can add things for players, and for us vets, we're like, oh my God, it's about time we finally got that. But think about the new player who never knew anything before that, who just gets to see that the game has this idea. Or maybe think about how a new player was inconvenienced before and how they won't be later. It's constantly updating and it's constantly evolving. And for new players, their perspective is very, very important to the survival of the game. So that's a perspective I always enjoy hearing from. Okay, we're getting a new patch in December, new kind of tombstones. What should I do with my equipment now? Wait, there's nothing to do with your equipment now. You just wait till the new patch comes out and then get that new stuff. And that's all you'll really need to do. You can just buy the crafted gear when the patch comes out if you have the gil, or you can grab the new weekly cap tombstones and work towards that. Or you can still... Oh, wow, I just knocked some stuff over. Nothing bad, but hold on. I was swinging my hand over like an Italian does. Just, Italian. That's what we do. There's nothing really to do with your gear now. Like, you're going to work and upgrade it now if you want. If you're not planning on doing any of the upgrades when the patch comes, it'll help out. But you'll just have more options for the next level of gear. You'll have your weekly normal modes. You'll have Savage if you plan on doing that. New weapon from Extreme. You'll have the new crafted armor. You'll have the new weekly cap armor. You'll have a few options. So I wouldn't worry too much about what you're going to do with your gear now, because it's not really going to matter in a few weeks. 2, Savage. How good do you have to be mechanically and equipment-wise? Equipment-wise, the bar is very low, but the more equipment you have, the more room for error you have. So when you're new to them, people who are at low gear levels tend to struggle because you can't really be subpar. You have to be performing your job at least at a moderately good level to do a lot of the newer stuff in the gear that has just come out. And that's specifically in the new gear, like the crafted gear, like the item level 510 stuff we'll be getting on patch day. So if you have less than that, then it starts to become, the room for error is lower and lower. But then as you get higher and higher gear, you'll be able to make more mistakes, resurrect people, recover from mechanics more easily, and actually be able to still clear those fights. So that's really the big thing is, I wouldn't really say you have to be this mechanically good, but the less gear you have, the more mechanically sound you have to be. And for some mechanics, you literally have to do the right thing or it's going to kill everybody. Whether it be E5 Savage and the knockbacks on Furious 14 or Light Rampant on E8 Savage. There's always a mechanic at some point where everyone kind of needs to be in tune or it goes downhill really, really quick. And yes, the trials generally are a linear difficulty increase. It doesn't always work out like that. The second and third fight are usually like a fight for which is actually harder, which is more fun in the case of the last couple of raid tiers. But if you're not confident, watch some other people do it first, learn from them, watch how they play in the content, that's very important, and then try to go from there. Because everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone does start somewhere that's, at a relatively low entry level, and then they work up from there. And that's just how you have to do it. All right, hashtag my happy Monday. Somebody's on mobile. I always do that on mobile. It does Mr. It sends it to my. I know that. First time asker here. Welcome, but you didn't say hello. We haven't had that happen in a few weeks. Feels bad, man. It's okay. I'll forgive you. First timer. I understand. Big fan of Blue Mage. Recently got together a group to tackle EX trials and hopefully Savage. Super excited for 5.4 Blue Mage and level 70 amongst more trials to do. My question is, what primals trials raids do you think will give spells, and do you think they'll give spells for primals they left out previously? Cheeky follow-up would be my idea of adding spells equipped would activate a limit break. People have suggested them just making like primal spells limit breaks, like Lakshmi's ultimate could be a heal, for example, like a healer LB3, or Susanoo's could be I guess a DPS LB3. Thing is, his is a conal. Most of them are AoE, so it's like hard to imagine. But like he can make his a single target AoE, and then you could. I've seen all sorts of suggestions, and I don't really have much to add to this topic because there's no great way to predict it unless they've given us very specific examples. I would have never assumed that Ravana's like cleaves that he does during the beetle phase. I would have never thought that would have been a spell. That wouldn't have been the one that I would have gone to. And then there's like nothing from Bismarck, and then but at the same time I didn't really expect there to be. So I don't know. It's hard to be like Sophia has one, but Nidhogg doesn't, and then Sephiroth doesn't, and Zervin doesn't. So it's like there was no way for me to really like piece it together the first time through. So it's hard for me to even think about predicting it this time. But I do think that if they are going to add a limit break equivalent, very similar to what you've suggested, you might need to be in a specific stance for one to be activated, and they might have a few different ones that can each be used as limit break equivalents. The only one that's kind of iffy there is tanks, because they already have Diamondback, and that's pretty much just a personal tank LB3. So the idea of then having a tank LB3 on top of that is a bit redundant, unless they nerf the shit out of Diamondback, which actually wouldn't surprise me that much. I do hope that specifically for tanks and healers, they add some more instant cast abilities, because that's the biggest weakness they had, is that the DPS Blue Mage, fantastic rotation, fantastic abilities, but when it came to tanks and healers, they had very few options, and it was very underwhelming from those two perspectives. As someone who healed all of the savages on Blue Mage, it was so annoying basically being restricted to hard casted cures, everything on the GCD. So that's the one thing I kind of hope that they do get, is instant casts for tanks and instant casts for healers. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy. Hello. Maybe you've answered this in a past video. Listen, I answered tons of questions in past videos. I've done so many weekly Q&As. You can't be worried about that too much. Unless I asked it last week and then you're asking it this week, and then it means you didn't watch the video before asking the question, and now I wonder, what are you doing? And that has happened before. Recently started doing Eureka for the first time and just hit Hydados. Your videos have been helpful. You're still planning on releasing a video on Baldesion Arsenal. So I've only mentioned that once or twice, so I don't think you're too out of line for asking that. So I decided that my BA video, if I made it, would do no good for anybody looking to do BA right now. Because after seeing the Discords and the resources that they've compiled and the way that they've described it and how important hands-on experience is, it felt like it was just smarter to tell people that Discords have that, as opposed to me being the source on it, because they have taken all this time to come up with entry-level tips, intermediate tips, do all sorts of fun stuff in there. All these Discords have put so much effort forth on that, and I would essentially be taking their homework. And that's all I'd be doing, because if I just offer what I know and my experience on it, it's nothing compared to what they've put forth. And so at the very most, I considered doing a video where I said, hey, I know you guys were looking for a BA video because I said I would follow up with it, but quite frankly, you should just do this. You should just go to your Discords, whatever Discord belongs to you, and look at their resources, because they're all very well kitted out. I know specifically on the Ether Baldesion Discord, I loved it. I loved all the resources they had. So I probably won't do one unless it's specifically to point to the Discords that you can join for Baldesion Arsenal and point out their resources and just how good they are. And to that, I guess just drawing people's attention to locations is quite useful, but it's still not quite the same as making a guide yourself. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks. Good. Now I don't have to ask, and now I know. Excellent. Have they ever clarified why Blue can't join regular Rolos roulettes, I'm assuming? I understand that some abilities are too powerful, but limiting the spell list would solve this. About to start leveling one, and this would make things easier. So no, it wouldn't. Roulettes are not good for leveling Blue Mage. Killing overworld mobs is good for Blue Mage. It literally takes like an hour of being power leveled on Blue Mage. And the overworld is where all of your EXP is coming from. You don't do fates, you just kill mobs, and you will level super freaking quick. So this would not help them, and there's no other alternative, because the only alternative for them is the only method to level them, which is killing monsters in the overworld. They don't let them join roulettes for exactly the reason you said. Their abilities are they're too flexible, they're too powerful, because they don't have a method through which the Blue Mage says, hey, I'm queuing as a healer, I'm queuing as a tank, I'm queuing as a DPS. So now they have to develop that, the UI for that, the use for that. They can't just have them all queuing as DPS and be like, no, I'm a tank Blue Mage. It doesn't work like that. Now you might say, well, they could do it based on the role that they've decided to steal, but they still need to now recode everything on the back end to allow that to bypass the actual role of the job, which is DPS, which is what the actual icon and the coding of it is actually stated as. So all that extra work for something that is in no way effective for them is essentially not worth it. It's not worth doing. The only way they want Blue Mages doing these dungeons is if they're A, hunting for spells, and B, queuing with each other or queuing solo or whatever it is, So it wouldn't help leveling. It wouldn't benefit them much at all. It'd be cool, but that'd be about it. And I pretty much only do Blue Mage for Tombstone events, Moogle Tombstone events. I run AV, takes about 4 minutes, run it with a few other Blue Mages, and done. And then I do weeklies on Blue Mage for teleport tickets, and I call it a day. Until we get Blue Mage update, then I got some Savages and hopefully an Ultimate or two to do. Hashtag Mr. Epic Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hello. What do you think of removing positionals from melees like in Bajia? No. Positions are one of the few things I actually like about playing as melee. Because it separates the good players from the really skilled players. It separates actually the good players from the bad players. Because you can press your buttons all you want on a job, but understanding where you need to be and how to maximize it and how to optimize it in content, super important. It's actually kind of weird when omnidirectional bosses exist because it's really boring as a melee. It's uber boring as a melee when bosses are omnidirectional, because then there's nothing that has to be considered. Now, obviously, in places like Bosnia or Eureka, where you can't guarantee you'll have a tank and everyone needs to be, functional at their maximum pretty much everywhere, yeah, it makes sense there. But in the core content, I think positionals need to stay, and I think it would be a huge step down in gameplay if they were to remove them altogether. As for Phoenix Down's usable in battle, like in Bosnia, no. I think one of 14's biggest problems in its more serious content is resurrection availability. I think it's too easy sometimes to come back from catastrophic failures that you absolutely shouldn't have. You see some week 1 clears, and it's 7 people died on this mechanic, and we healer LB'd, and then 4 people died on this mechanic, but we still did DPS to beat it. It's I feel there's not enough punishment on resurrections as it is, and adding more possibilities to resurrect doesn't sound like a positive step for this game to me. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how's life treating? It's treating me better. I'm glad I started the show with that because I answered a lot of your questions off the bat. I hope life's treating you good as well. One real quick question. I very recently created a new character on a different data center from my main for reasons. Fair. Problem is, I'm not used to being dirt poor. Oh god, I know that problem so well. Is there a way to send a few mil across a data center? Well, you've got a couple options. One, make another character on the data center where your main is, give all the stuff you want to give to your alt, and then transfer that character with the stuff. That's what I'll be doing for 5.4's raid tier, because my team wants to raid on Primal, and I'm not transferring my main, because fuck that. So that's what I'll be doing. So that's what you could do. If you have friends on both data centers as well who do happen to have if you have a friend who has a character on both data centers, and let's say they have 20 million gil on both data centers, you could give them gil on one character and they could give you gil on the other character, but odds are you're going to be going with option A, and that is probably your best option. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy, how you doing? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? Yeah, I'm glad I asked, because you are doing alright. Good. Question, if you lose your rotation mid-fight due to death or downtime, is it best to save cooldowns, get them to realign, or use them on cooldown? Example, using Trick Attack. Dying, then having Shadow Fang off cooldown when rezzed, but not Trick Attack. So, I'm going to be speaking largely from my experience, because it does very much depend on the job that you're playing. The general rule of thumb is that you generally time cooldowns for certain time frames based on if you would lose the use of a skill by delaying it or not. So let's say this. Let's say a fight is 10.5 minutes long. Trick Attack, 60-second cooldown. So let's say, about 10 seconds into the fight, you do your first Trick Attack. And then you're going to get 10 Trick Attacks from that point. You're going to get 11 total, because you get one 10 seconds in, then 110, then, 110, 210. So you get 11 total. Let's say you died, right? And that cost you a Trick Attack timing. You're now guaranteed to only be getting 10 Trick Attacks for the whole fight because of the timing you died. Well, if that's the case, as long as you don't lose another trick attack by waiting, you could get it back into rotation at the correct time. So you can keep it that 1 minute lineup that you've had pretty much the whole time. You're going to have to work a little bit to remember where that 1 minute time up is, but the general rule of thumb is if you die and get back up, and saving it would not cost you another use, it's okay to save it. But that takes a lot of fight knowledge and a lot of experience in order to do properly. If you were to lose another use of it altogether, it's most likely going to be better if you just pop it immediately upon getting up. Now, I can't tell you every job and every fight and every time that it's good to do this or it's not good to do this. I can just give you what would be the theoretical position where you would actually save it. Is that you would not cost yourself another use of it throughout the whole fight. So I wish I had more specific examples, but that's the best I'm going to be able to do in terms of narrowing it down. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. I think this is the last question. I'll have to check after this. I'll do a cutaway after this regardless while I check. Hi, Haps. I like your glasses. Always wanted to say that. Thanks. I got these from a Best Buy when I worked in New York City like 7-8 years ago. I worked as internal tech support for the company I worked at. And I went down to a Best Buy one day and just bought these. And I've had them ever since. And they work well for me. Do you think this game is a bit annoying to people with color blindness? It used to be more annoying, not so much anymore. I'm colorblind and stuff like debuffs and raids now the cast bars for interruptible moves are different. I find it frustrating. No, the only thing I find occasionally bad, they normally fix. It was way worse before. A Realm Reborn had all sorts of, oh, you're colorblind? That's cute. And they just didn't care about how it was designed. There is also a colorblind mode, mind you, and I did use it recently in my 1v1 duel against Sartavois, because I had issues seeing the phoenixes on the side because they were kind of blended in. They were like this dark red or something. And then like the whole area around is like green and brown. And I just couldn't see them at all. And it helped a lot with that. So consider using the colorblind modes because that'll definitely help. No, it's way better now than it used to be. They occasionally do something that kind of frustrates me as someone who's colorblind. The critical engagement, they actually fixed it. The very first one with the Mandragora, they fixed that one, but before they fixed it, it was terrible. I'll be honest with you, it was pretty bad. So no, it's definitely way better now. Let me check real quick. Maybe I don't need to do a cutaway because I'm almost positive that this is the last question. If it's not, I'll just pull it up again. Yeah, okay. I think it looks like it. Most other people are just like, hey, thanks for the content. Thanks for the video. Have a great month. 10-2 secret ending was shit to get. And I completely agree. No question for this week, but just a hello. Good. You know what? Your hello applies to the other person who was a first-time asker who didn't say hello. Okay? But with that, that's going to be the end for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Again, thank you for asking your questions. Thank you to our patrons who we named at the start of the video. And of course, if you have a question, ask it in the comment section of the video below. Probably going to be a few more questions next week because we do have the live letter part 2 this Friday. We will have a video on that, so please look forward to it. Hi. On that note, I'm going to go grab some lunch and get ready for my live stream, which will have been yesterday by the time you see this. So have a good Monday, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.